Frank Schaeffer. I just got into a car. I'm driving with Randy Bryce over to an event today, and we're going to be talking about his candidacy and why I support him and so many other Democrats trying to take back the House in 2018. Randy, let me just mention one thing that you probably don't know. I was one of Jack Kemp's good friends and proteges in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
And he was Paul Ryan's sort of godfather.
Right.
Ryan not clerked, he wasn't a justice, but you know what I'm saying. He was his guy when he was a kid. I don't know if I met him, but I used to stay in Jack and Joanne's home in Washington. And my family was high up in the religious right, which I since left a long time ago, hung around with the Bush family, the Fords. In fact, my mom used to swim with Betty Ford in the White House pool. So we were totally connected Republicans. I've traveled away from that background and feel that taking back the House in 2018 is not politics anymore, it's national survival.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a big deal. So you're the first Democratic candidate I've gotten on the road with. I'm a registered independent. I don't do Democratic stuff, but this is war. And I notice you're a veteran. My son was a Marine, fought in Afghanistan. And so, you know, my sense is I do not want this man in the White House unobstructed, and I'm looking to people like you to do something. So that's why I'm viewing him. So just introduce yourself a little bit.
I'm Randy Bryce, and I'm a lifelong resident of southeastern Wisconsin. I've graduated from public schools. I went into the Army after that, spent some time at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, part of the Rapid Deployment Forces. And when I got out, I did work with homeless veterans, and that opened up my eyes as far as how we support the troops when we're wearing the uniform and dodging the bullets. But when we get back, there wasn't a lot being done. At the time, 60% of the homeless population was made up of veterans, and it's since gone down. But I think that any percentage, now it's around 40%, any percentage of homeless and veterans should never be uttered in the same sentence together. But I got out, I've been doing work with veterans, and especially since I've been a union iron worker for the last 20 years, I've worked 2 full-time jobs at a time without having any kind of insurance, and things aren't getting any better.
Yeah.
Paul Ryan's been in office it'll be going on 20 years, and I've been a union iron worker for that same amount of time.
Talking to Randy Bryce, candidate for Congress, hopefully taking Paul Ryan's seat away from him, bringing someone who represents the people and not just the big corporate interests to power. And I want to ask you something that I haven't heard talked about much. You know, it seems to me everybody's always talking about the bottom line, the gross national product, the economy, you know, as if life is simply about making money. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the real issues are moral questions of right and wrong. You know, I think about the movie It's a Wonderful Life and Potter and Pottersville. And, you know, your opponent represents those guys. And it's as if we've given over the country to these people. You know, talk to me about your passion and the morality of why you're running. I mean, the issues that really get to you.
I'm running because there's a lack of just basic humanity, just treating each other like human beings.
Yeah.
It's all about helping people. You know, since they tried the trickle-down economics, it's just been a huge failure, and the income inequality gap is just blown apart.
Yeah.
To the point where the richest they control an unbelievable percentage of wealth in the country, while the people that actually do the work and sweat have our wealth. It's basically wealth redistribution, but it's going from us upwards.
Yeah, and I like the us part, because you are a working man. You actually want to represent people who look and think like you. The folks who represent them now have been bought and paid for by people like the Koch brothers.
Exactly. And it's about, you know, there's going to be times in our life when, I mean, there's a social safety net. It's for when people get down on their luck. Everybody's going to fall down at one time or another. And I learned in the Army, and even on a work site as a union iron worker, when somebody falls down, you pick them up, you carry them, you work together, you help them out, because there's going to be a time when you're going to need help, and you'll have those people to count on.
One of the problems with Paul Ryan and these guys is they are undoing the social safety net. If it's up to them, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, everything goes on the chopping block.
Absolutely. And he'll talk about, Paul Ryan, when he's in the district, he'll claim to want to save it, but it's going to be taking it away. It's going to be destroying it. And he even talked about how he could get rid of it. He dreamt about getting rid of it at a kegger in college.
Yeah, in addition to which, Paul Ryan is a big fan of Ayn Rand, sort of a weird guru to the super wealthy, telling them that their greed is great. And, and he comes out of a background that talks about the Judeo-Christian ethic. My daddy was a preacher, as you know, Francis Schaeffer, one of the founders of the religious right. Hey, even on our wildest, crazy right-wing days, we didn't worship people like Ayn Rand or say that greed was good. We were following Jesus, who said, take up your cross after me, sell everything, give it to the poor. Now they don't even pretend anymore.
No, and I don't know, Paul Ryan claims to be a Catholic.
Right.
And, when I read, I was raised Roman Catholic myself, and when I read the Bible, I didn't see anything about, it's all about feeding those that come to you. It's about taking care of strangers and treating your enemies as your friends. Well, now he's talking about building some wall and keeping people out. That's not welcoming anybody in.
One of the things that strikes me, Randy, is that people are so sick of all the hairsprayed, hairdo people on TV and all these little sound bites. And, I don't want to put you on a spot, but it seems to me the Democratic Party has fallen into being a little bit too establishment and polished and smooth sometimes too. It looks like they'd be more comfortable talking to Wall Street guys than they would talking to the iron workers you're about to talk to. Is that my imagination, or do we have to, as it were, show people a new face of the Democratic Party, that the Democrats actually represent people?
No, we have some people that have been phenomenal fighting on behalf of working people, but we could never have too many like us. There aren't enough. We have a lot of lawyers. We have, some millionaires in Congress, and I think we need to have more people that are actually working people involved, making decisions on our behalf, because nobody knows what we go through on a daily basis than us. And some people have gotten in and have stayed in for way too long and don't pay much attention to their own district, especially somebody like Paul Ryan, who aside from, I know he was a waiter for a while and he drove the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, but other than that, he's been an elected official. He's been a lifelong politician.
Yeah, I mean, he got into the trade, so to speak, in his 20s when he was Jack Kemp's sidekick. Well, not sidekick, but an aide who helped him. And that's back in the days that I was hanging around Jack Kemp when he was congressman and running as vice president, Secretary of Health and Human Services for Ronald Reagan. I knew all these people. One thing is, Jack was not an enemy of the working people. When he was at HUD, he actually did things with government money. He believed in the federal government. I mean, the old style Republicans were not people who hated working people or followed Ayn Rand.
Right.
Jack would have been shocked at Paul Ryan, and you have to get rid of this guy for the rest of us. I mean, we don't need an Ayn Rand groupie helping to run this country, worshiping and kissing the billionaires' feet.
No, we absolutely do not. And, Paul Ryan is somebody that had talked about makers and takers. Well, the people that he's attacking are the ones that are making everything. And him, by being a lifelong politician, he's the one taking the fruits of our labor.
Bryce running for Congress against Paul Ryan, and nothing concentrates the mind more of someone who cares about justice than the words union busting, I think. And I just want you to talk a little bit how you got into politics. What drew your attention to this whole situation here?
Well, I understood how politics affected local jobs on a city level, going and speaking on behalf of those. But when Scott Walker got in office and he dropped the bomb, using his own words, he decided to drop the bomb on public sector workers, I knew it was just a matter of time before everybody was going to have a chance. And he came right out. He said he was going to use a divide and conquer strategy to bust out all workers and eventually arrive at a right to work state when talking to one of the wealthiest women in the country, Diane Hendricks. So once he got elected and I saw how they were ramming things through, we decided we got organized. We had the first protest. It was at a machinist lodge, and that's coincidentally that's where we're going now to talk to the machinists at their statewide convention. But we knew as private sector unions that we needed to stand up for everybody, and that's what it's all about. It's about standing together, and he's continued his attacks every single year. And not only that, but he's made it harder for us to vote them out. They redrew all the lines, they gerrymandered all the districts, and just how they pass legislation now, it's ambush legislation.
Yeah, and he's in the pocket of the Koch brothers and all those big interests. just like Paul Ryan is. It's all the same crew, and they care about workers about as much as, most people care about cockroaches. I'm being serious. These are horrible people, and they pretend, especially they hide behind all this religious stuff, and coming from the religious right, what filthy hypocrisy, if I may use those words.
Right, and it's ALEC is another one that's sending all this legislation in, and they just white out the name ALEC on the bill, and somebody writes their name and they vote on it and pass it. And it's all about taking away workers' rights and just being able to have a voice in the workplace. There are plenty of, like right to work, there are plenty of opportunities if you wanted to do the kind of work I do as an iron worker, you don't have to belong to a union to do it. You can go, there are non-union companies now. You won't get paid what we do or have the same training, but the choice is there.
And we're off to the Machinist Union right now, and I'll be bringing you a little bit of my report from there. This is Randy Bryce. Godspeed, Randy Bryce. You're on the side of justice and the good. And Frank Capra and the makers of movies like It's a Wonderful Life, everything to do with traditional America is on your side rooting for you. These guys are revolutionaries and they're anti-worker. Godspeed to you.
First off, I have to thank you for being here, just for being here, because we understand what's going on in this state and how unions are under attack. And by having gatherings like this, it's a commitment to looking at each other and seeing that this is something we're going to do. And it's knowing why we're here and for fighting for what we have left. I decided to get in this race because I'm sick of what's going on. And I got involved starting with Scott Walker when he was elected. And he announced that he was going to do Act 10. And I'll never forget, I was driving up my driveway. We were working at a job in Burlington at the Nestle's plant. We were putting some additional stories on there. It was a butt frosty cold day, and it was epoxy coated iron. And I was doing the connecting, so I was like crawling over, slipping on it. I had a guy holding on to my belt so I wouldn't go getting tossed over. But I was driving up my driveway and I got a phone call from Kyle Millard, who's now working with our International. And he got a message from Graham Zielinski, who was the spokesperson for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. And they talked about Scott Walker's doing this thing called Act 10 and explained what it was all about. I was like, Act 10, what do you mean? And so when it was explained that this is gonna basically take away collective bargaining rights from the public sector unions, it was no. No, because we knew at that point that everybody, once they went after one person, everybody had a place in line. It was just a matter of time before they, I remember waking up, turning the TV on, seeing Donald Trump was gonna be the new president. I turned my TV off, I turned it back on again, thinking maybe a reset would change the result. No, I couldn't believe it. And I'd been getting called, there was Immigrant Rights, Voces de la Frontera, called me up, and they said, we're moving down in the Racine area. People are really scared. We have a lot of families really scared about being torn apart now that Donald Trump is president. And I said, yeah, whatever I can do, I'll be there. Because I've been told I have a big mouth, so they wanted my big mouth. And speaking up for another cause, it's very important. So it was on the May Day parade where we had tens of thousands marching in the street. Senator Larson had asked me, he said, your name keeps coming up as somebody to run against Paul Ryan, would you be interested? And I'm looking around, and at that point it was like, yeah, I will do it. Because we need working people. We need, what can we do? Just look at what we've done to see that unions are the last line of defense standing against everything that's going on. And personally, I've been very embarrassed that Paul Ryan has been a member of Congress representing us. And when Obama was president, I would, and they gave the State of the Union address, I would take my Proud Union Thug t-shirt, throw it up over the corner where Paul Ryan was so I didn't have to see him. And that was fine, but these days it's like, I need 3 shirts. So I figure it's easier, instead of putting my whole wardrobe up and using it to hang clothes, we need to change some faces.
I'm watching Randy Bryce talk to the Machinist Union. How unusual to see a politician who actually cares about workers. And he's going up against Paul Ryan. And this is the fight of the people against the white supremacist oligarchs who are funded and paid for by the Koch brothers. Randy Bryce is an American, a former soldier, a steel worker, a machinist, talking to a union about things that Americans always used to identify with, Republican or Democrat. It's my privilege to be interviewing him today.
I see around the country for getting rid of somebody like Paul Ryan, and it's the symbol that he stands for, the third most powerful Republican in the country. Think of the message we will send, not that we could send. This is something that's going to happen. The polling numbers are all right there. And as a proud union member, I can't think of anybody better to take him out. Thank you for being union members. Thank you for charging my batteries. Thank you. Have a great convention.
Watching Randy Bryce talk to a room full of union guys, and it was so refreshing to have someone talking about people's actual needs instead of just GDP or the world economy, actually talking to Americans about things they care about. It's what the Democratic Party used to be all about and can be again. So I want to just say that I think the Democratic Party has a new face, and the new face is represented right here by Randy Bryce. And Randy, it was refreshing to hear you talk.
Well, it's always great to go talk to a room full of working people, because my message isn't about what makes me so special. It's about telling them that I'm running for office because I think that they're so special. And that's what we need. That's what politics should be about in this country. It should be about lifting everybody up, not just a few select few who are already at the top.
And I remember you mentioning you had kind of worked to help Bernie Sanders, and then afterward, of course, worked to get Hillary elected because you knew what the alternative was going to be. But, you know, I heard you say this morning things have even turned out worse than you imagined.
Right. I was invited to speak at a Bernie Sanders rally, which I happily did. And I voted for him in the primary. And then after Hillary won the primary, I was selected to be part of the Electoral College and cast a vote on her behalf. And there was no doubt in my mind that we had to do whatever we could to support a Democratic candidate, so that, because we knew what Donald Trump was going to be, and we knew it was going to be a whole lot of craziness, but
which it has been.
It has been
more than you could have ever figured.
Unbelievable. I never imagined we'd be in this place where we're at now, where I'm literally thankful to just to wake up in the morning, because he's a bully, and he's, what comes out of his mouth leads me to believe he's not very stable in thought.
Well, and Paul Ryan says he's stable and talks all about family values, but he's been an absolute moral coward. I'm not telling you to say that, but Paul Ryan is a moral coward. Anybody with any moral guts whatsoever, he's like Winston Churchill used to talk about, one of the guys he opposed as a boneless wonder. He's a boneless wonder, and I'm so glad you're going up against him.
Well, he's not doing anything. He's not a leader, that's for sure. Because anybody in a position of leadership, you know, our Constitution calls for there being checks and balances, and Congress is one of the parts of the checks and the balances to our government, and he's not doing anything. He needs to be replaced. We need a new Speaker of the House. He doesn't have any reason to be in Congress. He's not doing anything for us. He's taking things away from us, and it's time to change faces in Congress.
Well, and with that time to change faces, I just need to say it's been a pleasure working with Randy today. I want you, if you watch this video, to do something about this. This is a genuine candidate, a real breath of fresh air in the Democratic Party. This is the face of the Democrats, representing working people, ordinary Americans. By the way, I'm a writer, but I'm an ordinary American too. You know, I care for my grandchildren and my children when health benefits are stripped from children and all the rest of this. So please get involved in Randy's campaign. Donate, help out, do things, volunteer if you're in the area, fight for this. It's a great symbolic run too, because Paul Ryan really represents the worst of the worst. He's just a bought and paid for Koch brothers shill. Let's get rid of him and put Randy in his place. Send a message. Thanks. Bye.